acceptance. Sometimes the thing that is holding us back from truly healing and moving forward is acceptance. A lot of times when we experience disappointment, anger, we hold on to it. It burrows inside of us and becomes a tension. So even though we are moving on, as we're always moving on, because time is always moving on, always guiding us into the next horizon. But the tension that connects us to this anger, this disappointment, freezes time. And that's when we get into that feeling of being in limbo, as though time is moving forward, the sunrise arrives, the sunset arrives, but we are still very much bound to the tension that we hold. So this tension unravels itself through emotional ache or emotional pain, or we call emotional tears, tears upon tears upon tears. But just because we're crying or we're experiencing deep pain, deep loss, deep grief, doesn't necessarily mean we accept the disappointment, the anger. A lot of times, in the feeling of our emotions, which indicates the tension we have burrowed inside of us, we resist, we reject, we judge. And how do we know we resist, we reject, we judge? Well, while the feeling is passing through us, it becomes quite dramatic, quite painful. It creates this suffering inside of us. Suffering. And that means that we have judgment. Acceptance is the process of making amends. It is forgiveness. But this forgiveness cannot be faked. Through connecting with the shadow. A lot of us fear the shadow. We don't welcome the shadow. We try to move away from the shadow. We try to do anything we can to distract ourselves from the shadow. But the shadow is not to be feared. The shadow is where our tension is. In order for us to truly make amends, to forgive and to accept, and to truly move forward without delays, without hesitation, without hidden fear and doubt from the tension that holds us back, secretly holds us back, unconsciously holds us back, we have to call out to our shadow. And when we call out to our shadow, we ask for the truth to be revealed, to why we are experiencing great suffering. The shadow will give us an answer. And if it doesn't, it reveals that we have a lot of judgment. Judgment is always that barrier to the truth of why we're suffering, why we're procrastinating, why we're delaying, why we're held back from truly experiencing a monumental rebirth in our emotions. So sometimes we get into this relay of emotions where we experience great pain and then it dissipates. We experience great pain, then it dissipates. And this is that cyclical nature of trauma. Great pain, emotional suffering, it dissipates. Great emotional suffering, it dissipates. So that resistance, or we're rejecting, we're going through the motions, but we're not accepting. We have judgment. That is what creates what we call this emotional setback, or we're held in a emotional pain. See, emotions, they very much want to be healed. Emotions don't want to repeat the same trauma again and again and again. Emotions want to accept and invite new emotions of joy, of compassion, because compassion is freedom of emotions. It's what frees all of the disappointment and anger that we have basically entrapped within us, unconsciously entrapped within us. So then we start to feel entrapped within our reality. It's because our emotions, they want to breathe, they want to be accepted, and they want to be invited into the light of the Holy Spirit. We can call this a journey of emotions. We are taking the cyclical trauma of emotional suffering, and we are rising our emotions into that doorway, that open doorway where the Holy Spirit can be accessed. So, when speaking out to the shadow of our lives, we are asking to face this emotional suffering that has us holding ourselves back. And a lot of us, we're holding ourselves back unconsciously. And how do we recognize that we're unconsciously holding ourselves back? Well, there are opportunities for us to move on, begin again, experience a rebirth, meet new friends, have new adventures. But we are hesitant, or we are isolating ourselves. That's an indication that we haven't fully accepted the tension. We haven't fully made amends. Because isolation can be a form of feeling unworthy or undeserving to meet new friends, to have new experiences, to have a rebirth, to begin a new relationship, to move, to soar, to receive new creative projects. So how we can fully resolve this ache and also free the attachment the other person has to us, because we're all connected. So if we have great anger and disappointment towards a person, that is creating a cord to that person. Either they're departed loved one, or either they're here on this planet. So our anger and disappointment creates this attachment to this person, where we're thinking about this person a lot, or we are just sensing their presence. It's because we have a tension within ourselves, within the shadow of our lives, that needs to make amends for us to fully move on. So, in making amends, it's very much what we can say a confession as well, or a confession as we are talking to ourselves. A lot of times when we talk to ourselves, our unconscious naturally reveals to ourselves what is actually taking place under the surface. But a lot of times we distract, we do anything to not face that part of ourselves. But in order for us to truly open our wings and to fly free without the heaviness of these attachments or these cords due to anger or disappointment, it's a confession. A confession is a way of making amends, is a way of talking to ourselves, getting to the root of why we feel this way, why we're in a cyclical emotional suffering, where we're experiencing the same emotions again and again and again. Well, the shadow will reveal to us that the emotions we're experiencing again and again and again is because we judge them. Every time they come up, it's an opportunity for us to make amends, to accept, to send those emotions into the white light of the Holy Spirit, but we judge them and then we ignore them. We place them in the shadow of our lives where we don't see them. But what we don't see doesn't mean that it's not there. And what we don't see in the shadow, the unconscious part of ourselves, can very much affect our new beginning, can very much affect our rebirth. It can affect our new relationships. It can affect our new creative projects, our new career pathways, our new opportunities to experience life and joy and happiness and being forgiven or to forgive. Because that shadow part of ourselves is very much, when we have all this disappointment, we all have this anger, this tension. No matter how much we say we're moving on, the tension is what creates a hesitation, can create a delay, create a self-sabotage. So, what we're going to do for any of you who are experiencing this emotional suffering where you're going through the emotional trauma again and again and again, and you're trying all kinds of things, either it's yoga or meditation or journaling or forest bathing or gazing at the sun or going swimming in the ocean, bathing in the creek, and you're still having that emotional trauma come up, is because it's buried within that shadow. So we can do a lot of healing and invite a lot of mantras and positivity, and that will very much propel us into a positive direction out of the depression and into a more uplifting direction. But the shadow and the root tension or the root disappointment or anger or whatever it may be, it has to be faced and it has to be loved. And it's very simple. We just have to love, give love, and almost visualize or imagine that part of ourselves, that attachment that binds us to another, where let's say there's heartbreak, or let's say we felt this great injustice, or we felt something was unfair, or we felt we were treated poorly, or somebody did something that was very cruel, or any of these things that create this feeling of being unwelcomed. And that's what we feel when we isolate ourselves a lot of times, is we feel unwelcomed by life. And when we feel unwelcomed by life, we are unconsciously holding ourselves back from new friends, from new relationships, from new beginnings, from a new creative project, a new career pathway, a new location of travel or moving. Because when we have this unconscious broadcast that we feel deeply unwelcome, deeply uncared for, deeply unloved because of this disappointment or anger from that attachment we had to that person because of that situation, that's what limits our possibility in this now moment of experiencing greater fulfillment and greater sense of care and love and community and joy from Mother Earth. And joy. It's like we very much, the shadow, it keeps us in the shadow when we don't face whatever is very heavy in that shadow, because we can live our lives and distract, but it's always going to be there. And we always can sense it because we're always brought back to it. So whatever we're brought back to is an indication that we have something that we judge, either about ourselves or about another person, a judgment such as shame, such as guilt, such as regret, such as blame, and that ties us to people. And that's when we get into confession. It's a way of making amends. It's an atonement, which is the same thing as forgiveness, seeking forgiveness, asking for forgiveness, praying for forgiveness, allowing forgiveness and self-forgiveness, forgiveness from others, forgiveness from the angels. Because when we don't make amends or an atonement, we could say confession with ourselves, a lot of times that is what limits our whole life. We can limit our whole lifetime just by holding on to this tension burrowed inside of us. So, what we're going to do is we're going to invite a meditation that will help us to send off the tensions in the shadow of our lives, send them into the Holy Spirit, and invite the angels to guide that attachment towards the white light of the Holy Spirit. Now, these attachments can be, in a visualization, they can be seen as a person. They can be seen as a shadow themselves. Basically, it can be an aspect of ourselves that's very depressed, or very lonely, or very scared, or disappointed, or very lost, or feeling unwelcomed and uncared for. That's basically when we go into the attention from that attachment or that cord, from something that was very heartbreaking. It is very much like a scared child. Instead of a child being playful and energetic out in nature, climbing trees, dancing and singing and playing with flowers, that child is scared in the corner. And a lot of times when that child is very scared, they feel unworthy to go play with new friends and climb trees. So that's what happens. When a child is hiding in a corner, scared long enough, feeling unwelcomed and cared for, eventually that child feels so unworthy to experience joy that they never know joy, or they only know the very shallow experience of joy, but never the full bloom or the full blossoming of joy within their heart, because they feel unworthy. So whenever we are sending hate or sending anger or sending just our deep feelings of hurt or heartbreak to another, either it's a departed father, either it's an ex-lover, anyone, either it's a mother, grandmother, any person that we felt made us feel unwelcomed in life, basically we are sending to that person they're unworthy. And whenever we send back to others, it's a lot of times reflecting what we feel inside, that we're unworthy. Because we all know the experience of anger, the experience of disappointment, or just all these heavy emotions, it very much what we call can transfer between person to person. For example, we experience great disappointment or we're let down in a relationship, and we feel this tension, this emotional ache that keeps coming up again and again, where we feel just unworthy, or we feel like we did something wrong, there's something wrong with us. Basically, that heavy emotion that isn't resolved within us, it can transfer to the other, and then transfer back, and then transfer to the other and back, because that is our spiritual connection. There's a connectivity, and we know it, but we deny it, or we ignore it, or we avoid it, but it's there. So when we are ready to confess or atonement or forgiveness, acceptance overall, that is when the transferring of emotions, it reaches a point of rising into the Holy Spirit. We're sending these feelings into the Holy Spirit, basically entrusting these heavy regret or guilt or anger into the Holy Spirit. That is what we call trust. That is what we call receiving a blessing, receiving a healing, surrender. And a lot of us think we have to do all of this healing work to resolve our lives, and that it's going to take a lifetime to heal all of this stuff. But the Holy Spirit is miraculous healing power that a lot of times we don't necessarily allow into our lives because we don't feel worthy of a miraculous healing. We don't feel worthy for the archangels to take all of our disappointment and our anger, heartbreak, and to transform it for us. A lot of times in this physical body, we feel like we are alone and we have to do it all ourselves. And that's what creates this barrier between us and the Holy Spirit. But a lot of shamans, a lot of healers, we could call them wise ones. Basically what they do is the veil, they make it very thin so that we can have the experience of the Holy Spirit coming into our lives. And when we feel that Holy Spirit coming into our lives, we realize that we don't have to do all of this on our own. There is a power beyond us that can transform our lives. We just simply need to allow it in, and we need to send off these aches and heartbreaks into the Holy Spirit and trust and surrender. That's what's going to help us to connect with our blooming and blossoming joy. So, close your eyes, relax your body, relax on your back. You can place a pillow under your knees so that your knees are higher than your heart, which creates beautiful circulation of energy, of blood, from the heart to the toes to the head, down the fingers, all the way through and through. And just focus on your heart chakra. Put your awareness on the heart chakra. And ask your heart chakra, am I open or am I closed? You will get an answer, and if you don't, there is judgment. You are judging the answer. Is my heart open or is my heart closed? And you may have a physical sensation of contraction, or you feel just tension or something feels tight. That means your heart's closed. Or if you feel this elongation, as though your heart is stretching wide, like from shoulder to shoulder, means your heart is open. Now, in the center of your chest, where your heart chakra is, I want you to imagine that there is a tiny white lotus flower. A tiny white lotus flower. And within that white lotus flower is a tiny door. And that tiny door opens. And within that tiny open door is white light, pure white light. And as it shines through, it's a tiny light that shines through. And imagine it growing, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, wider and deeper. The lotus flower expands until it's from shoulder to shoulder, taking up both of the breasts, both of the chest area. And this doorway, this white light is beaming through you. It's beaming through, up into the ceiling, and it's beaming down out of your back into the floor. This white light. Now imagine this white light is now becoming a white flame at the heart. Look at this white flame. Look at its innocence. Feel its continuity. Feel its joy, its compassion. Now, look at the white flame. Is there anything connected to this white flame that may be darker colors, such as blacks, such as dark browns? Just look at it. Don't judge it. Breathe into it. Breathe into its tension. Breathe. Place your awareness on the dark browns, the dark blacks. Now, I want you to call in your shadow. Shadow, I invite you into my space, and it will come. Shadow, I invite you into my space. Shadow, reveal to me the darkness that is at my heart, the tension, the ache, the pain, the suffering that is at my heart. Reveal to me now. So speak this out loud, and your shadow will answer. And if it doesn't, there is judgment. You are resisting, you are rejecting the truth of what wants to reveal to you. Shadow, reveal the tension, the suffering, the ache, the pain in my heart chakra. You may feel a sensation, you may hear a word, you may have a memory, you may see a vision. Now connect with this either memory, sensation, ache, pain, emotional trauma. Imagine it as a scared shadow in a dark corner. This scared shadow feels unworthy. This shadow may be self-destruction, maybe self-demise, self-hatred. And I want you to reach into that dark shadow in that dark room, in the dark corner, and I want you to speak to it. I am ready to forgive you now. And imagine the response the shadow gives to you. They look up. They stretch their limbs. They stand tall. Shadow of my tension, my suffering, I am ready to forgive you. Now, imagine a white door opens within this dark space and a white light beams into this room, beams onto the shadow. The shadow may feel too unworthy to be seen, too unworthy to be received by something so loving and compassionate and unconditional. But you affirm, very strong, very steady, I forgive you. You belong with the Holy Spirit. You want to be free. Say this out loud. You belong with the Holy Spirit. You want to be free. Ask your shadow, does my attachment or shadow, tension, suffering that connects me to a person wants to be free? Yes. You will find the majority is yes. Yes, it wants to be free. No attachment wants to be locked into a dark corner to spend their days in emotional ache and emotional suffering. Now call in the angels. Angels, I invite you into this space I am in. I ask for your help. You may have a physical sensation or a feeling or a tingle that the angels are here with you. You may have a ringing in your inner ear. You may have a energy move up the spine or tingle in the head, at the fingers, at the palms, at the toes, the soles of the feet. And imagine the angels gather this attachment. They're guiding this attachment towards the white door. Now, this attachment may resist because it feels unworthy, but you affirm, you can be free. I open the door to the Holy Spirit for you to be free. You can be free. You can be healed. Your healing belongs with the Holy Spirit. Now imagine this attachment, this tension, this person is walking towards the white light with the help of the angels guiding this scared energy, fearful energy. And as it enters into the white light, into the door, it disappears within the white light. And then the room, it opens up to become total white light. It was once dark and now it's white light. It's a room with white walls, with a white floor, white ceiling, and there's windows looking into the grass, the field, the trees. It is refreshing. There's a mountain, there's a stream, there's an ocean. And there's a door. This box white room becomes a house, and the door opens, leading you onto a balcony, down steps, into an open, spacious field with trees, with a mountain, with the ocean. You can hear it, you can sense it, you can smell it. And the archangels are with you. Now sitting on the steps of the house, the white house with the door open, you could still look into the white room where the white door to the Holy Spirit is open like a portal. And you speak to yourself, I give you love. Darkness of my past, darkness of my present, darkness of the future, I give you my love. You belong with the Holy Spirit. That is where you will find joy. That is where you'll find peace. I wish you peace because I wish myself peace. I wish you peace because I wish myself peace. I wish you joy because I wish myself joy. I wish you find your way because I wish to find my way. So give love to every judgment you hold within your body, every tension that you've ignored, that you've denied. I give you love. I give you love. I send you off to the Holy Spirit. I send you off to the Holy Spirit. I send you off to the Holy Spirit because that is where you belong. You do not belong in my body. You do not belong in my body. You belong with the source of pure energy, the Holy Spirit. May you be free in the Holy Spirit. May you be welcomed as you are in your unworthiness, in your disappointment, in your anger, and may you experience great transformation within the Holy Spirit. So when you're ready, you can take some deep breaths to really feel the confession, the atonement, the forgiveness that you've invited into your space, into the shadow of your lives. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes. And you can trust that we have moved any unconscious, subconscious tension. We've moved it into the Holy Spirit, where it can experience this immense transformation. Now, throughout your day, I want you to focus on a white door open and a white light within the white door. And I want you to imagine throughout your day that there is some sort of scared person, fearful person, regretful person, angry, disappointed person walking into that white light. I want you to imagine that represents your attention, your emotional suffering, your emotional ache that connects you to person. That it is walking into the light of the Holy Spirit, leaving you to get its immense healing with the Holy Spirit, where it is welcomed, where it is loved unconditionally, and where it is free to make amends, to resolve, for atonement, for forgiveness, for compassion. I want you to imagine this. And when you sense this, when you remember this throughout your day, it's an indication that you are moving forward, truly moving forward, by leaving all of your worries with the white light of the Holy Spirit. It makes you lighter,